The two-story house located on Acacia Street heard the door knocking, causing the neighbors to turn toward the house that everyone thought was the apotheosis of marital happiness. Hello. Don't forget to register, like, and leave a comment below. Mariana, with her hands trembling and her eyes marred, watched unbelievingly as Antonio threw his suitcase on the sidewalk. The silence in the mansion on the Acacia Street, number 187, was interrupted by the sound of the bell. Mariana, 38 years old, with wavy brown hair and honey-colored eyes, rose from the Italian leather sofa, where she had been crying in silence for the last 2 hours. She walked to the door with trembling hands, worried about what she would find on the other side. She stumbled upon the impassive face of a justice officer, stretching out a brown envelope when she turned the golden sleeve. "Mrs. Mariana Costa, please sign here," said the man, with a monotonous voice contrasting with the storm of feelings in Mariana's heart. She felt like she was signing her own death sentence when she wrote her signature on the paper that was handed over to her with trembling fingers. After the officer left, Mariana ripped the envelope and looked at the lines of the official document quickly. Every word hit his chest. Divorce divide products. Doubts. Her 15-year-old husband, Antonio, appeared repeatedly, along with legal terms she did not understand. Mariana fell off the couch with the paper in her hands and went back into the room. She thought she had exhausted her tears in the last few weeks, but they came back with full force. How did everything get to the present point? Your life seemed perfect only a month ago. She and Antonio were an envious couple of the high society of Pinheiros, an inland middle-class town. He is a successful 42-year-old lawyer, known for his eloquence and irresistible appeal to the courts. She is the dedicated wife, who volunteers and is always impeccable in social events. However, the impeccable appearance began to collapse on Thursday afternoon, when Mariana decided to make her husband happy by taking lunch to her office. The secretary said to Doctor with a sad look that Mariana would only understand later. Antonio had gone out for lunch with a woman who had hired him. Mariana was hesitant about the young woman's tone. She impulsively asked the name of that client. "Cristina Almeida," said the secretary, fleeing from Mariana. At that time, the name was not important to Mariana. However, it would be the catalyst for the destruction of her marriage. Mariana was driven by a suspicion that grew in her chest and began to pay more attention to the details in the following days. Antonio received late calls and departed to answer the meetings that lasted until late. The sudden desire to improve appearance, which includes frequent trips to the gym and shopping for new clothes. Cruelly and unexpectedly, his suspicions were confirmed. Mariana was shocked when she saw her husband staring at a young blonde on the other side of the hall during a charity dinner at the Bar Association. The cross-looking eyes, the complicit smiles, and all the atmosphere of familiarity were manifested. Antonio casually introduced the young woman to greet them, saying, "Mariana, this is Cristina Almeida, my new legal assistant." Mariana's world began to collapse at that moment. The pieces of the puzzle fit with difficulty. Nowadays, everything seemed terrible when it came to absences, lies, and secrets. However, the worst was yet to come. Anthony came home 2 weeks earlier than usual after dinner. He had a serious look, without the mask of affection he'd been wearing in recent weeks. He confessed his betrayal uncircumcised. However, Mariana had secretly hoped that this would not be just a temporary case. Cristina was 3 months old. Mariana relays the divorce document in her hands as Antonio's words echoed in her mind. "Mariana, I can't go on with this farce. I love Cristina and I'm going to take care of my son. You must get out of this house. This isn't your home anymore. The situation was extremely cruel." In addition to the betrayal, Anthony expelled her from the house she had built for 15 years. Each room had memories, dreams, and plans that now broke apart. However, the final blow came when Antonio explained the financial situation with a coldness that Mariana never imagined. He had contracted substantial debts and made several risky investments over the years. With a cynical smile, he revealed that all these transactions had been made on behalf of both. Mariana would now be responsible for half of those debts due to the upcoming divorce. But, but in what way? Mariana whispered suspiciously. I've never had any knowledge of these deals. How is it possible that I take responsibility? Mariana trembled when she heard Antonio's cold laughter. You signed all the papers, my dear. Remember the piles of documents I brought home asking for your signature? You trusted me so much that you never read it, did you? The accomplishment came to Mariana as a blow to her stomach. Those years of blind trust, in which she thought her husband would always do the best for both, now turned against her. Not only would he lose his house and his marriage, but he would also get out of debt. Mariana was shocked in the days following the delivery of the divorce papers. With rumors beginning to spread throughout the city, friends tried to contact her, but she isolated herself, unable to respond to other people's piety or curiosity. Luisa, her younger sister, finally managed to get out of Mariana's bubble of despair. Luisa entered the house without warning and found Mariana shrunk on the couch, surrounded by used paper sheets and empty bottles of wine. Luisa opened the curtains and let the sunlight flood the room for the first time in days, saying firmly, "Enough, Mariana. You can't continue in that situation. We need to take action." Luisa helped her sister to get up and guided her to the bathroom gently but firmly. Luisa arranged the mess in the room and prepared a strong coffee in the kitchen while Mariana took a hot bath. The sisters spent hours talking at the kitchen table. Mariana has spoken with sadness about the horrible things that have happened in the last few weeks. Luisa listened with patience, with expressions on her face alternating between surprise, indignation, and determination. Luisa finally held her sister's hands and said, "Mariana, what Antonio did is contemptible, but you can't let yourself be destroyed for it. We're going to have to fight." Mariana began to act with the help of Luisa. The first thing they did was find a family law lawyer. Dr. A, middle-aged man with kind eyes hidden behind thick frame glasses, Carlos Mendez, listened carefully to Mariana's story. After a long moment of thought, he said to Ms. Costa, "Your situation is complicated, but it is not hopeless. We will thoroughly review all the documents you have signed. There are gaps in the legislation that may allow us to challenge your liability for these debts." Mariana entered an extensive legal battle in the following weeks. Every day it brought new information about the magnitude of Antonio's betrayal, which affected financially and emotionally. It was found that he had transferred money from the company to personal accounts and used Mariana's name in dubious transactions. Mariana faced another obstacle as she fought against the law, to rebuild her life. She found a small apartment to rent with Luisa's help, leaving behind the mansion she once called home. Each object was a reminder of what it had lost during the process of change. Mariana met Sophia, a 70-year-old lady who owned a small antique store in the city center during this turbulent period. Mariana had entered the store by chance, attracted by an old watch in the window that recalled one of her grandmother's. Sophia, with her penetrating blue eyes and white hair, seemed to have the ability to understand people's spirits. She invited Mariana to have a tea at the back of the store when she saw her look lost. Mariana saw herself telling her story to this gentle stranger there, between old furniture and the smell of jasmine. Sophia laid her wrinkled hand on Mariana's and said, "My dear, sometimes life presents us with challenges that seem impossible to overcome. However, it is these obstacles that shape us and allow us to discover forces that we did not know we had." Mariana felt deeply Sophia's words. For the first time in months, she experienced a positive feeling. Mariana returned to Sophia's store in a few days because of the comforting company and the growing interest in antiques. Sophia discovered that Mariana had a real interest in the business and began to teach her about the subject. Mariana absorbed the history of each piece, the methods of restoration, and the art of negotiating with an astonishing thirst for knowledge. One day, Sophia commented, "You have a good eye for it," while Mariana was carefully examining an ancient porcelain set. "Have you ever thought about working with antiques?" Mariana was surprised by the question. Learning. The idea had not even passed through his mind, as he was so involved in the legal and emotional battle he faced. However, the more she thought about it, the more the concept attracted her. It was an opportunity to start over and create something new. Mariana was encouraged by Sophia to start working part-time at the store. Work not only helped to distract her from her legal problems, but also awakened in her a love that she did not know existed. Every piece Mariana took had a story, and she found that she loved uncovering and telling these stories to customers. The legal struggle continued. Dr. Mendez and his dedicated team worked tirelessly to unravel the financial mess that Antonio had created. Evidence of fraud and financial manipulation began to emerge quickly. When a former employee of Antonio's office sought Dr. Command, she brought me several documents and emails showing that Antonio had deliberately deceived Mariana, making her sign documents under false justification. Based on these new evidence, Dr. Mendez managed to repay most of Mariana's debts. More than that, the evidence of fraud paved the way for a criminal charge against Antonio. The small town of Pinheiros quickly received the news of Antonio's arrest for financial fraud. Mariana, who had been the subject of gossip and eyes of sadness, suddenly became an admirable figure. Many were inspired by their resilience and determination to seek justice. With the end of the trial, Mariana finally had a chance to rest and think about her life. Despite being painful, the last few months had taught her a lot about herself. She discovered an inner strength she never imagined to have and a passion for her work. Mariana was growing up, and Sophia made a surprising proposal for her. One day, while they closed the store, she said, "Mariana, I'm getting old. Although I had considered retiring, I didn't want to close the store. What opinions do you have about taking it?" Mariana was surprised by the offer. Starting a business? The notion was both exciting and terrible. However, the longer she thought about it, the more sure she became that that was the way to go. Mariana created a plan to buy the store gradually with the help of Sophia and a financial advisor. She was determined to win, despite the difficulties. That's how Mariana arrived at the central bank 2 years after the day she received the divorce papers, ready to apply for a loan to expand her business. The antique store, now called Treasures of Mariana, had become popular in the city and attracted customers from all over the region. Mariana was thinking about her trajectory as she waited for a call for a meeting with the bank manager. The strong and independent woman she became was shaped by all the challenges, tears, and moments of despair. Mariana got up and adjusted her blue C-suit when the meeting room door opened. She entered the room with firm steps, ready to present her business plan. She didn't expect to see her relative sitting on the other side of the table. Antonio, who had been released from prison and worked as a consultant in the bank thanks to family links, looked at Mariana with a mixture of surprise and unbelief. As the ex-spouses looked at each other, time seemed to stop. However, Mariana did not hesitate. "Good morning. I am Mariana Costa, owner of Treasures of Mariana," she said in a firm voice, extending her hand with confidence. "I'm here to talk about a loan to expand my business." Antonio whispered a reply, still very shaken. "Mother Mariana? I didn't expect to find you here." For a moment, the room was silent, full of undited stories. Mariana felt Antonio's eyes flowing through her face and noticed the subtle changes that the last 2 years had caused on her face. She was no longer the corrupt woman he left behind. In his place was a confident businesswoman with a glow of determination he had never seen before. After his quick recovery, Antonio scolded and tried to regain his professional posture. "Well, we'll continue the meeting. Please contact me to inform me about your business plan." Mariana sat down again at the table. She began to present the numbers she had prepared with great caution and accuracy. The store's growth over the past 2 years, forecasts for the future, and extensive expansion plans were discussed. Mariana saw Antonio's expression change as she spoke. The first shock led to a mixture of surprise and reluctant admiration. She knew that every word she said was not just about business, it was a testimony to her life, to her resilience. Mariana, her firm and professional voice, continued saying, As you can see from the financial reports, Treasures of Mariana has shown consistent growth over the last 18 months. Since I took over the store, our turnover has tripled, and we have a loyal customer base that continues to grow. Antonio was a little upset when he saw the numbers in the documents that Mariana had brought. He admitted, almost to the contrary, that the results were impressive. Mariana continued her presentation explaining her expansion strategies. She commented on the purchase of a larger space in the historic center of the city, the hiring of more employees, and the creation of an online platform that serves customers outside Pinheiros. Anthony noticed Mariana's change as she spoke. Appearance wasn't everything. She seemed more confident and elegant than he remembered. She talked about the business she had created with knowledge and enthusiasm. Mariana concluded by saying that the loan she was applying for would allow her to make that expansion and potentially double her revenue in the next 2 years. We have a solid financial plan for the repayment of the loan, with comfortable margins even in the most conservative situations. The room remained a brief silence when Mariana finished her presentation. Antonio seemed to be reflecting on everything he had heard. Finally, he spoke, with a voice that combined professionalism with a feeling of regret. Well, Mariana, I have to say that I am very surprised. His presentation was extremely comprehensive, and his business plan seems robust. He took a break, as if he was choosing his next words carefully. Given our history, I think it would be appropriate to refuse this case because of a conflict of interest. To ensure an impartial assessment, I will forward your request to another manager. Mariana agreed with a neutral expression. I totally understand. I appreciate your consideration. Anthony hesitated for a moment when he got up to leave the room. Mariana, I'd like to express... However, Mariana gently interrupted him. Antonio, the past is history. Our presence today is business, and that's how it should be. Antonio squeezed slightly and went out of the room, seeming to swallow in dry. Mariana breathed a long breath as soon as the door closed behind her, feeling the weight of years of history diminishing. Minutes later, an additional manager entered the room and presented himself as Mr. Carlos Alves. The meeting continued with Mr. Alves asking about Mariana's business plan. Following the conclusion of the meeting, Mr. Alves seemed to have a positive impression. Madam, Costa, I must say that the proposal you have tabled is one of the best organized that I have ever witnessed. I'll send it for approval immediately. It is almost guaranteed that the loan will be granted. Mariana thanked and left the bench with satisfaction. She was thinking about how far she had come as she walked through the busy street towards her store. She was homeless for 2 years and drowned in debts that weren't hers. She was a successful businesswoman today and is about to expand her business. Instead of disturbing her, her unexpected encounter with Antonio only reinforced her growth. On arrival at the store, the Treasures of Mariana, she was welcomed with a welcoming smile by Sophia, who was now a special consultant in the store. And how was it? Asked Sophia anxiously. Mariana smiled, a smile that reflected not only the success of the meeting, but also the whole road that led her there. She said, "It was revealing. I think I've finally overcome the past." Sophia hugged Mariana with affection. "Honey, I'm very proud of you. You managed to turn a tragedy into a victory." Mariana opened a bottle of wine that she had kept for a special occasion that night, alone in her apartment. As she tasted her drink, she thought of the ups and downs of recent years. Antonio's betrayal, which seemed to be the end of her world, had inspired a life she had never imagined for herself. She had discovered an inner strength that she didn't know she had, a passion for her work that made her happy, and a sense of independence which made her feel alive. Mariana felt a sense of gratitude as she looked into the city lights out the window. Gratitude for Sophia, who supported her when she was not confident in herself. Thank you to your sister Luisa, who helped you in the most difficult moments. Even gratitude for the challenges you faced, because these challenges shaped you into the woman you are today. The sound of her phone interrupted her. The bank sent a message informing you that your loan had been approved. Mariana smiled, feeling a mixture of feelings. joy, pride, and a little anxiety for the future that opened up before her. A new chapter would begin tomorrow. Mariana knew she was ready to deal with the new challenges that would arise with the expansion of the store. She had learned that while life rarely follows the path we planned, the deviations occasionally lead us to far better destinations than we could have imagined. Mariana made a silent promise to herself as she prepared to sleep. She would never allow anyone to limit her dreams or her value again. Nowadays, she wrote her own story and was determined to tell every chapter. Mariana woke up with renewed energy the next morning. Carefully choose a set that reflects your new identity: professional, confident, and ready for life. Before leaving, she stopped briefly in front of the mirror and did not recognize the woman looking back at her. Her small but dedicated team welcomed her when she arrived at the store. Laura, the young woman that Mariana had hired 6 months ago as an assistant, seemed very anxious. "Madam." "Costa, there's a gentleman waiting to talk to you," said Laura. "He said it's significant." Mariana walked into her office in the back of the store and was so intrigued. A middle-aged man, whom she did not immediately recognize, was sitting on one of the old chairs that decorated the space. "Madam." "Back," said the man, stretching out his hand. "I'm Eduardo Mendez. I'm Christina's brother." Mariana's heart exploded. Christina was the woman with whom Antonio had betrayed her, but her marriage ended when she was pregnant. She was without words for a moment. It seemed that Edward felt his discomfort. "Don't worry. I'm not here to cause confusion. Actually, I'm here to apologize and explain some things that I think you should know." As she took her seat behind the desk, Mariana gently indicated the chair for Edward to sit down again. She kept her voice firm and stated that she was attentive. Before he started, Eduardo took a deep breath. "First, I want you to know that when Antonio started the relationship with my sister, she didn't know he was married. He lied to her as much as he lied to you." Mariana assented slightly, not relying on her voice to make an answer. Edward went on to say, "But that's not all." Anton demonstrated his true nature after the birth of the baby. He left Christina and the baby, saying he didn't know if it was really his. The revelation shocked Mariana deeply. While a part of her, who had grown and matured in recent years, wished to rejoice in poetic revenge, another part only saddened the innocent child involved in this situation. "Christina is going through difficulties," Eduardo continued. "She feels deeply guilty of the role she unwittingly played in destroying her marriage. She asked me to come here as soon as we learned about the success of her business. Not to ask for anything, but to offer a sincere apology and to offer you that." Edward put an envelope on the table. Mariana took it carefully and opened it to find various documents. Edward explained, "These are proofs: emails, SMS, and banking documents. All this indicates that Antonio manipulated you and Christina. We think that if you decide to take any additional legal action, you should have that." Mariana examined the documents and experienced a variety of feelings: anger for deception, sadness for the pain caused to so many people, but also a strange feeling of liberation. These documents were the definitive proof that she was not guilty and that her trust had been won in ways she had no idea. At last, Mariana spoke after a long time in silence. "Thank you for bringing this to me, sir. Command. Although I cannot say that this erases the past, it is useful to conclude a chapter." Edward seemed to feel better when he gave up. "There is one more thing," he said with reservation. "Christina, if you're available, she'd like to meet you. Not to ask for anything, but to offer your apologies personally and so that you two can reach a state of harmony." Mariana remained silent for a long time, thinking about the proposal. Part of it wanted to immediately refuse and bury the past completely. However, the experience of compassion and growth she had acquired in recent years made her hesitate. She finally said, I'll think about it. Right now, I can't make any promises, but maybe in the future." It seemed like Edward was conscious. He got up and went out. "Thank you, Mrs. the Coast. Also, Congratulations on your success. It's inspiring to see how you've changed your life. Mariana sat for a long time in her office with the documents scattered in front of her after Edward left. She thought about how her life had changed, how she had changed from a victim to a heroine. Mariana stayed at home that night and took a blank notebook and began to write on it. This time, it's not a business plan, but your story. She thought that her journey could serve as inspiration for others who were going through difficult times. Mariana felt a sense of tranquility settling on her as the words flowed. Although the past could not be changed, the future offered countless possibilities. She was also ready to embrace them all, one page at a time. Mariana focused on expanding her business in the following weeks. After the loan was approved, she began looking for the ideal location for the new store. Every day brought new difficulties and choices, but Mariana faced them with a determination that would have surprised herself 2 years ago. Mariana received an unexpected call one day while looking for a promising land in the city center. It was Dr. the lawyer who helped her in the divorce, Carlos Mendez. Her quick voice on the phone said, "Mariana, I need you to come to my office as soon as possible. You must want to hear in person some new information about your case with Antonio." Mariana came to doctor's office intrigued and a little worried. "Send immediately after the completion of the inspection of the new site." Through the journey, his mind was flooded with possibilities. What else could have arisen now? Mariana was received by the secretary in the office and immediately directed to the room of Dr. Command. A middle-aged man in thin-ringed glasses and gray hair stood up to greet her. He pointed out a chair for her to sit down and said, "Mariana, thank you for coming so quickly. We present some surprising information." Dr. Mendez removed a folder from his desk and opened it. When he did so, he revealed several documents. "Do you remember the risky investments that Antonio made and which resulted in the debts he tried to push for you?" Mariana felt a knot in her stomach when she sat down. "How can I remember?" The lawyer went on to say, "Well, it seems that some of these investments were not as bad as we thought. In fact, one of them ended up becoming very lucrative." Mariana was surprised when she flashed, "What exactly does that mean?" Dr. Mendez smiled. "That means, my friend, you're legally entitled to a large sum of money. Antonio made these investments during the wedding with everyone's money. You are entitled to half the profits, regardless of whether you did not know it at the time." Mariana was shocked. After going through all this and trying to start over, is now the time? It sounded too ironic to be true. "How long have we been talking?" he asked hesitantly. Dr. Mendez gave him a roll. Mariana felt the air out of the room when she saw the number. It was an amount that would not only pay off all the remaining debts, but would also comfortably finance the growth of your company and still have a good reserve. How has it been revealed now?" Mariana asked, astonished. "A regular review of Antonio's accounts," explained Dr. Command. "Looks like he tried to hide those profits to avoid sharing with you. But the truth always emerges, doesn't it?" Mariana sat down slowly as she tried to understand everything. On the one hand, he was relieved and grateful for this unexpected luck. On the other hand, she felt angry to know that, even after so long, her life was still tied to Antonio's actions. "What's going on now?" he asked. "Well," said Doctor. "We have 2 options," said Mendez, bending forward. "We can take legal action to claim your share of these profits. Since we have all the necessary evidence, the process would be quite easy. Or," he stopped to look at Mariana's face, "or we can use that information to negotiate, to offer an out-of-court deal to Antonio. He pays us an agreed amount, and we don't disclose his attempt to hide those assets." Mariana thought about her options. She was not interested in the idea of taking Antonio to the courts again and reviving all that drama. However, he was also not happy with the idea of having to negotiate with him and deal with the man who had caused him so much suffering. "Can I consider that?" Finally, she asked the question. Dr. Mendez smiled intelligently. That's true, Mariana. There's no rush. Take the time you need to make a choice. Just remember, now you are in a powerful position. Your decision must not be influenced by the past. Consider what will be best for your future. Withdrawing from Dr. Mariana walked the streets of the city with many thoughts in her mind. The afternoon sun cast long shadows on the buildings, and she saw herself reflecting how the shadow of the past still seemed to spread over her life. She did not know that her steps would lead her to the park where she and Antonio used to walk in the early years of marriage. Mariana closed her eyes and took a deep breath while sitting on a family bench. The irony of the situation was obvious to him. It seemed that the universe was offering you a reward after all the suffering and reconstruction of your life on your own. However, this reward was bound to memories that she preferred to keep secret. Mariana made her decision as the sun set, illuminating the sky with tones of orange and pink. She took her phone and called Dr. Command. In response, she said, "Let's make the deal outside the courts. However, on one condition. I want the money to be handed over by Antonio personally, and I wish it was available in my store." The interruption occurred on the other side of the line. "Mariana, are you sure?" asked the doctor. "Your voice is filled with concern, and you're lying." She said it was absolute, feeling a wave of determination passing through her body. It is time to close this chapter definitively. Mariana mentally prepared for the meeting in the following days. She reviewed her memories, fought against her fears, and ultimately reaffirmed to herself how much she had changed and grown. Mariana arrived at the store early in the morning of the scheduled meeting. She carefully arranged every piece to make sure it was all right. This store represented his new life, strength, and resilience, and it was here that she would definitely end her past with Antonio. It was 10 o'clock when the doorbell rang. Mariana breathed deeply, lifted her dress, and advanced vigorously to the entrance of the store. Anthony was standing there, with the appearance of being uncomfortable in his expensive suit. Eventually, her attention turned to Mariana as she looked inside the store. None of them said anything for a moment. Mariana broke the silence and said, "Hello, Antonio," with her calm and controlled voice. "Enter." She took him to her office, located in the back of the store, an intimate setting decorated with some of her favorite classical pieces. Mariana sat behind her table, pointing to a chair for Antonio. Antonio took an envelope out of the inner pocket of the pallet and said in a tense voice, I brought the check." Mariana sat down and grabbed the envelope without opening it. She felt the weight of the paper and all that it represented, and for a moment only held it. "You know, Anthony," she began, with her soft but firm voice, "there was a time when I thought that this money or anything material could make up for what I've been through. However, I now understand that the experience I had was my real reward." Anthony looked at her confused. "What are you saying?" Mariana smiled with a genuine smile in her eyes. "My strength has increased. I found in me a passion that I didn't know existed. I built something I'm very proud of." She made a gesture of hugging the store. "That's all mine. Not because I got it from someone else, but because I built it with my own hands." Uncomfortable, Antonio lowered his eyes. "Mariana, I'm deeply sad. For everything." Mariana examined him for a period of time. Finally, she admitted, "I know. And I apologize, Antonio. Not for your benefit, but for mine. Because to endure that anger would only hurt me." She got up to end the conversation. Antonio followed her to the shop door, seeming to want to say more, but couldn't find the right words. Mariana stopped him with one hand in her arm before he left. "Recently, Anthony, your son and Christina. He's not responsible for any of that. Be a good father instead of a husband." She said that and opened the door. Antonio went out, looking at Mariana for a last moment before disappearing through the busy street. Mariana leaned on her for a moment as she closed the door, feeling a wave of emotions passing through her body. His mouth flowed silent tears, but they weren't tears of sadness. The tears were of calmness and freedom. Mariana took the envelope containing the check when she returned to her office. She held him for a moment, thinking. She smiled decisively and put it in a drawer. Your business could grow and create new opportunities with that money. However, that was not what determined their happiness or success. She took her cell phone and called Sophia. Could you visit the store? I think it's time we started planning our grand opening. Mariana walked through the store, her fingers sliding gently over the antiques she loved so much as she waited for Sophia. Each piece had its own story. Mariana had also found a new life for herself, just as these pieces had found new life in her store. The sound of the bell announced that Sophia was coming. Mariana smiled, feeling happy for the first time in years. She looked to the future, full of opportunities, and she was ready to accept it with open hugs. Mariana felt a wave of gratitude when Sophia entered, her eyes shining with enthusiasm over the expansion plans. Gratitude for her path, her difficulties, and, above all, her ability to reinvent herself. Where do we start? Asked Sophia, smiling widely. Mariana felt cheerful and hopeful as she laughed. From the beginning, of course. We have a fantastic story to tell, and I'm looking forward to telling the world. Thus, Mariana and Sophia began preparing the next chapter as the afternoon sun shone through the windows of the store, illuminating the antiques and creating an almost magical glow. A chapter full of expectations, advance, and, above all, joy that was hard-won and much appreciated. Mariana could not help thinking about how her life had changed as they talked about ideas and made plans. From despair to hope, from betrayal to new trust, from dependence to independence. Every difficulty, every impediment had been a step in his journey of self-knowledge and personal development. The expansion of the store was not just another step in the business, it was a testimony to its resilience and ability to turn difficulties into opportunities. Mariana knew she was ready to face the future, stronger, more insightful, and truly free, as she and Sophia laughed and dreamed together. At the end of the day, Mariana stopped to look at the busy street when she finally closed the shop door. The sun was setting, illuminating the city with a golden glow. She felt a deep peace in her heart when she smiled. She whispered thank you to everyone, not just one individual. She is grateful to the universe, to those who helped her, and even to the struggles that made her a woman. Mariana looked at her store, her refuge and her victory for the last time before walking towards the house, with her light steps and her heart loaded. She was prepared for tomorrow, which would bring new obstacles and new discoveries. It's time to write the next chapter of your story, which is about success, self-love, and overcoming. So Mariana went forward, looking into the bright future that she had herself created, as the stars began to stain the night sky. A future full of opportunities, love, and above all, the joy she really deserved. In the following weeks, Mariana devoted herself to preparing the expansion of the store. She faced new obstacles and decisions every day with renewed confidence. Finally, the site in the historic district was rented, and the reforms began quickly. Mariana received an unexpected call during the installation of new shelves one afternoon. His sister was Louise. Louisa's urgent voice said, "Marie, you need to come to the hospital now." It's her mother. She suffered a heart attack. For a moment, Mariana's world seemed to freeze. Donna Helena, her mother, has always been a source of confidence in her life, especially during the difficult periods of her divorce. It was almost impossible to think that something could happen to her. Mariana ran to the hospital, leaving Sophia to take care of the store. Throughout the journey, his mind was flooded with memories. She remembered how her mother comforted her after Antony betrayed her and encouraged her to continue when everything seemed to be lost. Thinking about how long it had been since she last visited her parents, she felt guilty of being so busy with her own projects. Mariana found Louisa in the waiting room with her red eyes of so much crying when she arrived at the hospital. The sisters embraced each other in silence, sharing their fear. "How's she doing?" Mariana questioned with a trembling voice. Louisa said, stable but critical. According to doctors, the next 24 hours will be crucial. The following hours were an agony. Mariana and Luisa alternated between the waiting room and quickly visit Dona Helena's room at the UTI. It seemed that his father, who used to be a strong and reserved man, had aged in a matter of hours. Mariana looked at her mother for the first time in months during one of these ceremonies in the hospital room. Mrs. Helena, who was always so lively and vital, now seemed fragile and small in front of the hospital's white clothes. She seemed to be being devoured by the pipes and machines around her. Mariana felt an explosion of emotions while holding her mother's hand. Gratitude for the constant and unconditional love she received. Regret for having concentrated so much on her own success in recent months. And fear, a deep, deep fear of losing the woman who has always been his safe haven. "Mom," she whispered, with tears flowing freely through her face, "please be fine. You're what I need. It's a lot I want to tell and share with you." Mariana made a silent promise at that moment, sitting next to the hospital bed. If her mother recovered, she would never trust the love and support of her family again. His professional success was insignificant if he could not share it with his loved ones. The following days were an emotional storm. There are moments of hope, when Mrs. Helena showed signs of improvement, and moments of despair, when things became more complicated. Mariana almost moved to the hospital, dividing her time between her mother's room and a quick call to Sophia to check how things were in the store. Mariana had an epiphany one night in the hospital when the silence was broken only by the constant beep of the monitors. She had sought external validation throughout her life. First for his marriage to Antonio, and then for his business success. However, in that hospital room, she discovered that true love lies in the relationships we build, in the love we give and receive from each other. Donna Helena finally saw again a week after her first heart attack. The first thing he saw was Mariana, who was asleep in a chair next to the bed. She managed to squeeze her daughter with a lot of effort. With the touch, Mariana woke up with her eyes opened and saw her mother conscious. "My mother!" When she said that, her tears suddenly fell. Donna Helena whispered, her voice roared by contempt. "My girl. Just don't cry. I'm present." Mariana spent hours with Donna Helena as she strengthened herself, sharing stories about the store and her plans for the future, and, more importantly, expressing all the love and gratitude she felt for her. The experience of losing her mother almost transformed Mariana. She remained committed to the success of her business, but now she understood that the true meaning of life was in the connections, in love, and in the positive impact we have on other people's lives. Mariana had made a decision when the day finally came when Mrs. Helena would be released from the hospital. She would change her life to devote more time to her family. The store would continue to grow, but not at the expense of their most valuable relationships. Mariana gathered her team back to the store. She shared her renewed vision for the business with Sophia at her side. They would grow and expand, but they would also create a culture that valued balance and personal relationships. She informed her employees that her store did not only sell antiques. We sell narratives, souvenirs, and connections, and we need to value our own stories and connections to do that authentically. Treasures of Mariana flourished in subsequent months in ways she had never foreseen. The new store in the historic district quickly gained customers from all over the region. However, sales numbers or rising profits were not Mariana's greatest triumph. Their employees were smiling because they were now working in a place that valued their well-being and their productivity. I was doing weekly shopping visits with Donna Helena, who was sitting in an old chair near the showcase and talking to customers about the exhibited pieces. She was at Sunday dinners at her parents' house, where Mariana, Luisa, and their families gathered to share food, laughter, and love. Mariana saw a familiar person on the other side of the street one afternoon as she prepared a new exhibition in the shop window. On the sidewalk, Antonio was standing and staring at the store with an expression that mixed admiration and a touch of regret. His gaze crossed for a moment. Mariana felt a grief that was no longer pain. It was more like discovering that a chapter in his life was closed. She gently chanted, a gesture of gratitude and possibly forgiveness. For a moment, Anthony hesitated before repaying the accent and moving forward. Mariana realized that his feeling was only a little compassion when she saw him leave. Her ex-husband was a part of her story, which shaped her, but no longer defines who she was or could become. Mariana turned her attention to the window and smiled at her reflection on the glass. The woman who looked back at her was no longer the betrayed and abandoned wife, not even the businesswoman determined to show her worth. It was Mariana, just a daughter, a sister, a friend, a mentor, and, above all, a woman who was at peace with herself and with her place in the world. Mariana thought about her journey as she put a beautiful Art Nouveau vase in the vitrine. Each piece in his store had its own story. Mariana had also been reborn through her difficulties and successes, just as these antiquities had found a new purpose and beauty in her second life. A customer arrived when the doorbell ringed. Mariana turned with a sincere smile on her face. She was eager to establish new connections and share more stories, because now she knew that that was what was important, not only in business, but also in her life. Thus, Mariana walked towards the future, illuminated by the golden glow of the afternoon sun, not only as a successful woman, but as someone who had learned the true value of love, family, and authenticity. Her story was even richer and more beautiful than she could have imagined.